Welcome to Norwegian Modeling Bench. This is Kenneth, and today I will make the first installment on something else than a ship. So last Christmas I got this B-25J Mitchell that I'm now starting on. So in this installment I will be working on the cockpit, also using some extra detail upset from Eduard to improve the look. So I hope that you enjoy. And please subscribe, give me comments, and like if you do. Yes, so then I've decided to move ahead with the B-25. So in addition to the Hong Kong model kit, I've also bought some extra aftermarket kits from Eduard. So pretty hefty bunch here. So with the bomber cockpit interior, some exterior details, ammunition belt, bomber front interior, bomb bay, fuselage interior, some corrected pilot seats, seat belts, and then also I have gotten this Eduard brass in. So with the wheels for the B-25, so some resin casted wheels, which looks very, very nice. In addition to that, so I've also decided to get some improvements for the gun barrels. Hopefully these are the correct ones. Then I also need some nose weight, so I saw that they had one for this kit. So to improve the support for the model, I've also bought these brass wheel legs. Probably have a better name, but I thought that when looking at the plastic, it looked a bit flimsy, thinking of how much weight this model will have. So these are a good addition. And then also I found this 3D decal instrument panel, which should be a good addition to the interior of the cockpit. One of the detail upsets from Eduard also has an improvement for the cockpit, but I think this looks to be a lot better, at least in my humble opinion. So then I will start by working on the cockpit, and let's see how this pans out. Thinking I am not a plane modeler, I'm a ship modeler, so it's been, well, 20-30 years since the last time I built any airplanes, so please bear with me if I do anything incorrectly. And of course, I don't know necessarily the terminology of this in English either, so bear with me on that one. So let's move ahead. So when it comes to reference materials, I found this book. I'm not sure if I found it on Amazon or eBay, but at least it contains a lot of good information and historical information about the Mediterranean theater of operations and the different planes and B-25s that were involved. This one also included decals for two of them, so both in 132 scale and 148 scale and 172 scale. And it has this really nice illustration, which gives a good indication about the painting and so on. And I have elected to go with this B-25 Margaret Mary Rustin, and which has a bare metal finish on the underside and an olive drab finish on the upper side of the fuselage. So I think this will be my goal for this one. So the seats and the seat bases are completely replaced with photo etch. So these are again from the Eduard detail upset or aftermarket kit, which I at least were able to get hold of. I know it's a bit difficult to get them, but you might get them some on eBay or something at least. So I'm using my regular approach here, using VMS CA glue, both regular for PE and extra thin. There are also quite a few bends that needs to be done on this one, so also using a bending tool to get proper bends, also 90-degree bends, and of course that you get them properly aligned. As you can see, I'm also annealing this end part here because you need to make a curve, and without annealing the brass, it's very difficult to get that bend in order. So also using just a drill bit and then using my fingers to bend around the drill bit to get the correct curve that I want. You can also see that I'm using a bending plier. So this is a Tamiya bending plier, which is very handy for bigger jobs. And then I also have a smaller one for smaller work. So, well, it's regular PE work this really, just using CA glue and pressure, and then securing with thin CA glue. So you can see here I'm using a brass toothpick for the thin CA glue, and then a regular toothpick for regular CA glue. These tweezers I can also recommend. They're quite pointy, which makes tiny jobs quite easy to do. So here we have the bases ready before moving on to the seats themselves. Well, I made a little mistake on this one. The back side of the seat should be a bit more curved than what I did. So that was a bit of a gotcha a bit later on, but I managed to correct that a bit later on at least. And for these parts, really only use patience and try test fitting against the other parts that you're bending towards. So in this case, the backside of the seat, and then bending until you get the correct shape. So as you can see, I'm testing out the fit, and then correcting if I need to. Otherwise, I prepare all parts before painting them up, and as not as usual, I am using a different primer for this one. So I'm using regularly the AK Extreme Metal Primer, which I think is a really good primer for metal parts or PE. In this case, I'm actually using Mr. Surfacer 1500 and thinning it out with leveling thinner. So that's a bit of a difference in my operation, at least, than regular. Then you have these thinner photo etch parts going on the sides of the seats, which is then also bent into shape and then attached with first regular CA glue, and then secured on the edges with thin CA glue. In this case, you also are replacing some parts with styrene. So these are just regular styrene rods that you can buy in the hobby shop. So here we have the seats ready for painting. So I think they look rather nice. It's a good addition instead of the kit parts, at least. They are lacking a lot of details. And then we have the floor itself on the cockpit, which you also add some photo etch parts to. They add more detail to the floor itself. But be aware that you need to cut off some parts here, as you can see, because otherwise it would be very difficult to get them attached to the fuselage itself later on. So otherwise, I'm not 100% pleased with the fit of this Eduard set. There are some misalignments and so on, which, well, a bit of a haste work from Eduard in this case, but all in all, it looks really good, I would say. But of course, when working with parts that are like 0.5 mil skewed or something like that, that's not how it should be. But as you can see, the details are quite nice before painting them up. Again, using the bending tool to start working on the fuselage sides. There are a bit of parts that needs to be removed, not a lot, and them being replaced with some photo etch instead. So I'm doing this in 2 operations, adding all of the basic photo etch parts, and then you have some pre-painted steel parts that are going on later on to simulate the instrument panels and so on. So gluing all of these parts in place, painting up the parts, and then adding those panels, which we'll see later on. Sorry. So these are just regular boxes, not big things to do. I also bought this masking set from Ask. Which was really good, really nice and crisp edges. So this is something I will show later on, but there are some parts in this Eduard set that goes on the top of the windows here, which looks like it's for the escape hatch and so on. So after priming with white Mr. Surfacer, I'm also doing some pre-shading. I saw this from Skeleton actually, and it was a really good approach, I think. So using some dark brown color before painting up. So you get some pre-shading, and that gives a good impression, I would say, later on. I'm also using real colors from AK for this project. So that's a lacquer acrylic paint, which is amazing, I would say. It comes on very thin, it dries in a very short time, and it gives a nice finish. So that's something I could definitely recommend looking at. And that paint can also be brush painted, not only using airbrush. So that's a good thing in my book as well, that you can use both an airbrush and a brush to use the paint. So here you can see I'm adding those panels before starting to attach the parts together. You can see also the details going on between the seats, and then I've added all the controls on the quadrant in the middle. Then it's a bit of a paint job, adding some aluminium color and also some black color. And as you can see on the yoke, it's both a rubber and NATO black. And then adding some wear and tear. So this is just aluminum color, which is then added to a sponge and of course removed as much as possible, so you get just tiny amounts on the surface, so you have better control of what you're doing. So this is at least my approach. It's kind of a chipping. I didn't go for a full-fledged chipping on the inside at least, and it gives, I would say, a really good result doing it this way. So that's at least one way of doing it. And then was to add some NATO black color for the instruments on the sides of the fuselage. And also then to the yoke, as mentioned before. And you can also see I have painted some of those parts in aluminium, so hopefully it gives a good impression of it. And then we have the seat belts. I did go for a B-25 fabric edition on this one, and not the one I presented in the beginning. I think it looked a lot better, but there are quite a few small details that needs to be added, buckles and so on, but actually quite fun to do. And for me, the first time I have done a job like this. But again, this is using just patience and a bit of CA glue, and voila, you have a good result in the end. And then weathering up the belts after they've been attached to the seats. Well, there's only patience and glue, as I said. So and here you can see them attached to the seat, just positioned in a way that I thought looked good, and then adding the yokes, gluing them in place. And you can also see the leather bag on the back side of the pilot seat, which I think looks quite nice. You won't see them later on in any way through the windows, but it's nice to know that they're there at least. And then I'm using oil paint together with some white spirit, thinned out in white spirit to accentuate details and so on. And of course, I gave it a gloss varnish before I started on this one, so the flow will be better and at least won't be touching the underlying paint and ruining that work. And the instrument panel I presented in the beginning, and that was just added onto the plastic part. So this is the end of this installment. I hope that you liked something different than me presenting a ship. I would definitely like to get some feedback on this, since it's my first airplane in decades. So the next parts will then include some more of the interior work in the fuselage. So until next time, stay safe.